We're talking with Todd Kent, who's the filmmaker behind Comic Book Literacy. And welcome to Pegasus News.
Thank you.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Todd, and how you got into filmmaking.
Well, I'm from the Dallas area. I grew up here. I went to the University of North Texas and got involved in the... I majored in radio, television, film there, so I got into production there. A lot of television stuff. Not filmmaking per se, but there's a lot of overlap with all that. I started reading comic books, not really, a little bit when I was a kid, but not really so much until high school and college. And then, just kept at it, starting with documentaries, and it wasn't long before the two things collided. Everybody asks me how I got the idea to make the documentary, and honest to God, I just don't remember how I got the idea. I'm somewhat certain from the beginning it was, as I say, I like comics, I like making movies, I want to combine them. So with that thought, I knew I wanted to do something positive about comics. You take a look around, positive contributions by comic books, it doesn't take long before you just stumble across literacy and education, and how there's all these stories, all these anecdotes of people that learn to read or learn to love reading from comic books. And the more you look into it, the more you find people are very passionate about that, and that just grew and grew. And I really started off slowly because I didn't know exactly how I wanted to do it. So I'd research here, research there. I would maybe sit somebody down and do an interview, over the course of several years. And again, I'm doing this when I'm not at my full-time job, so it just grew from there, and it kind of evolved from there. You start at the beginning, so I'd go to the comic book store and the people who worked there and talk to them, and then they would have suggestions and go with that, and then they would have suggestions. An associate producer who worked on this film, Ethan Nate, helped me out with a lot of contacts because he's one of those guys that everybody needs to know because he's a guy that knows everybody.
Yeah.
So he helped me out with several, but a lot of it was just, the writers or the artists or the historians will have a website or a blog or something, and you contact through them. And I was fortunate to get a lot of really great interviews with really great creators because of the topic, because they were so passionate about it, because it affected them as well. They learned to read from comics, or they learned to love to read from comics, or they found it was a benefit to use comics as they taught. I didn't want to be one of those guys that's working on their film for like 50 years. I kind of said, okay, at this point I'm going to start editing. At this point I'm going to be done editing. So I could still, to this day, be tracking people down and interviewing them, but I wanted to put the brakes on it at some point. I consider myself very fortunate to have screened at Comic-Con. I love Comic-Con. I think Comic-Con's great. They don't have to put on a independent film festival, but they go to the effort and the expense of doing it, and I think that's great. That being said, I think we had 3 people in the audience at Comic-Con.
Damn.
Comic-Con is in a huge convention center. There is a hotel next to the convention center. There are several hotels next to the convention center. The hotel right next to the convention center is where they had the film festival. They did not have it in Comic-Con. So that's strike one. They had a huge program. When you go to Comic-Con, you get this big, thick book. It has everything in it. It mentioned the film festival, but it didn't, kind of on its separate little section. There's schedules that come out daily for Comic-Con, and the film festivals are not the films at the film festival are not listed in that. They really don't receive any additional press or marketing at Comic-Con. The films that screen at Comic-Con are in direct competition with everything else that's happening at Comic-Con.
Right.
And there's a million things happening at Comic-Con. All of them are exciting. Yeah. All of them are, you want to go to. I think we're up to strike 5. Strike 6 was if you accidentally made your way to that hotel, if you made it past the few things that they did have at the hotel, if you got to where there's a good-sized room, lots of chairs, where they were doing the screenings, if you got to that room, I think there's a sign that said film festival, I don't know. There's a guy holding a cardboard arrow right in front of the door saying, go that way, because there was some other room where something was happening. And if you made it all the way that way, like I did, specifically looking for the film festival, I saw the guy and I turned and I went the other way.
Man.
So it took a little while before I found my way back. That being said, we screened several other places and we've gotten, great response to it.
Good.
People like that comics are being portrayed in a positive light. As I said, a lot of people have had these experiences where they learn to read from comics, or they're sitting in school and they're not getting it, they're not being engaged, and later on they picked up a comic, started reading it, devoured it, picked up more, found similar stories in prose novels, picked up more of those, found different stories in prose novels, picked up more, it all started from comics for them, and they became incredibly literate. When I started doing the research, it didn't take long to stumble across a lot of comics and military connections, specifically in World War II, and we talk a little bit about that in the film. And like it says in the documentary, there's a rich history with comics in the military. The soldiers have been reading comics for decades, and they continue to do so. And we showed how they're still being shipped over, and it means a lot to them. Like I said, I'm from Dallas. I wanted to do a hometown screening. I wanted to do it the right way, and having the Dallas Museum of Art get involved was just huge. It was a huge thing for me. I'm really thrilled to screen it there. I've been working with the Dallas Tennis Association. It's another oddball connection I have. And Needed Influence of the Arts and City Square. And they're all getting involved to... they do a lot of programs for Dallas inner city children, and what we did in December, they put on a cartoon artwork workshop where they brought in kids and they brought in a cartoonist, and he taught them a little bit about drawing, and interacted with them. It was a big hit with the kids. Some of the artwork that they created during the workshop, it will be on display at the museum that day during the screening.
Wow, cool.
In a PowerPoint presentation. The museum also donated 100 passes so that the kids can then go to the museum, see their artwork, see the film, and make a day of it. These are a lot of them are from low-income families. They never been to the Museum of Art. Some of them have not been to a museum in general. So, we're hoping they can take a lot away from it.
Will they take a comic book away from it? Maybe?
Wow, that's a great idea. I need to hit up somebody